Madam Mayor, I did hear from, hold on, never mind. We're all good.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are now called to order. Roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Here.
Councilmember Iverson. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Jared.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. Councilmember Marquis.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Costello.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson. Oh, Mr. Carlson's not here. We have all but one council member, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Carlson is not here tonight. He is on a business meeting. So we have a motion to excuse Cliff.
I move to excuse Councilman Carlson.
Give a second.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Roger. We have a motion to excuse Councilman Carlson by Cliff, a second by Roger. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Teresa.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Cliff tonight and remain standing for prayer from Pastor Tom from the Calvary Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. Father, Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for your kindness, goodness towards us in Jesus. As you bless the proceedings tonight, that you'd give city council members, all those that are involved in the public works and the government offices of Sila, just give them the spirit of wisdom and discernment. May they continue to be good servants for the community, and you bless them in all the proceedings tonight. And we thank you for your kindness and goodness to us in Jesus. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Agenda changes, we have none. public appearances, introductions, and presentations. We have Katrina down on the agenda. She is sick and will not be joining us tonight. We also have Mr. Doug White, Democratic candidate for the U.S. Congress Representative District 4 with us tonight.
Madam Mayor, I don't actually see him on the attendee list yet. I'll give him just a second, though.
Okay.
I did make contact with him twice today, but I hadn't heard back. So whenever you are ready, we can move forward.
Okay. Getting to know our business, we have none. Communications. There were no oral or written communications for this week's meeting. Consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. Should any council member request that any item on the consent agenda be considered separately, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and become part of the regular agenda. Cliff?
We accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Cliff, a second by Mike. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Teresa, please read the consent agenda.
Approval of minutes, February 8, 2022 council meeting, approval of claims and payroll.
Thank you. Public hearings. Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening's public hearing is an open record public hearing to consider the application for a vacation of an unopened right-of-way shown on the Duncan's Edition plats as Weenass Avenue and a 20-foot wide right-of-way labeled alley that extends south from Test Drive Lane that was requested by Frontier Investments LLC. The background and findings on this is that we accepted the application for vacation on December 15th, 2021 for the previously described right-of-way and alley that's located near the end of Test Drive Lane. This vacation is for the express purpose of eliminating the existing right-of-way discrepancies that were established by our previous right-of-way vacation and property transfer with Brian Harris and the city of Sila. The purpose of to remove these discrepancies is to allow the development of a restaurant / brew pub and dedication of additional property to the city of Sila for continued maintenance of the city's wastewater treatment plant outfall ditch and possible welcome sign. The city has worked with the property owner quite harmoniously in this request to make it to where that these vacations of property and dedication thereto to the city is equally proportionate, and therefore no compensation will be required for the vacation. City staff is recommending that you hold the public hearing. And we're recommending approval of the street vacation. I will also say that as this is a little bit different process from our normal public hearings, council should note that the recommended motion on your agenda statement should be read should you wish to approve it. As in your packet, you should also taking a look at on pages. It's the second page in your council packet for this item. Page 1 through 3 is the city council's recommended findings of fact. So you should have reviewed these findings of fact as these are become your own when you read the recommended motion for approval. If you wish not to approve this, then you would simply deny the request, and this at the end of the public hearing, and this request goes away. With that, I'll kind of jump into the staff report and go over the required conditions of approval. that are required to be met for approval of this right-of-way vacation, and I'll be brief on the items. And if there's questions you have on different portions of the staff report, when I get done, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights. So there are about 6 different criteria that are required councils to make for right-of-way vacations. The first one is, what is the public benefit and reason for and limitation of the right-of-way vacation? Basically, I've already described that in the announcement of this particular item. The benefit is that the developer gets undeveloped piece of right-of-way dedicated back to him, so it's not encumbering his property, and the city gets to exchange some properties that would benefit it in maintaining its existing wastewater treatment plant ditch, and then allowing for a welcome sign or property to be dedicated that could be used for a welcome sign, I guess is a better way to put it. This vacation doesn't deny any access to a public street for any property that's being vacated. So it meets criteria number 2. There isn't any specific plans for extension of streets that this proposal would be in opposition to, so it meets criteria 3. The proposal and the future development of the property meets all of the existing zoning and land use laws for the city of Sila, so it meets criteria 4. And there are no public or franchise utilities in the right-of-way that's going to be vacated that would need to be protected. And then finally, for appraisal, we did not require an appraisal for this property, as the city is exchanging like property for like amounts of property. And then also compensation was also not required, as we're just exchanging property rather than monetary amounts of money. And with that, the Planning Department and Public Works Department recommends approval of this right-of-way vacation. Are there any questions before we open it up to the public?
Cliff?
On page 2 and again on page 3 of the findings of facts and conclusion, that references a map dated December 15th, 2022, which I believe should be the map that's also included in the packet, which is dated December 15th, 2021.
I think that's a Scrivener error on my part on the staff report. It should be 2021.
That's all I had.
Thank
And
you.
if the map you're referring to is actually in the application packet. If you go to item 1B and then go all the way past, it's quite a number of bunch of pages, but when you go to the end of the title report, then you run into the map that shows the existing properties to be vacated, which is that V pattern of right-of-way. And then you have the other piece of the dedicated right-of-way along the ditch, which is about 15 feet in width. Remember, if I can see this correctly, sorry, 14.85 feet in width. And then a 226 square foot a rectangle or box that is a square piece of property that is off of lot 5 that it'd be dedicated for future use of some type of signage. So Madam Mayor, I'm not hearing any more questions. If we want to open the public hearing up to the public and take any testimony.
Okay. We are now going to open this up for public hearing. I see, welcome Cody. I see you up there. So we are now open for the public hearing.
Is it all right if I go for it.
Sure.
Just really briefly, I just wanted to say that we've read the staff report as a group and agree with vacation and really appreciate the communication between Jeff and everybody at the city and our team. It's taken a little bit of time, but I think we figured out a really equitable situation that will work well for all of us, hopefully. And we're excited to get going here in the next month or two, if all goes as planned. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cody. Council, you have any questions of Cody or Jeff? Looks like you're off the hook there, Cody. Okay. Well, seeing no discussion, we're going to now close this public hearing and move on to.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
they do need to take a motion, make a motion and read the recommended motion. Somebody on council.
Right, to approve.
Right. So you have to, before we move on to the
ordinance.
ordinance, we have to have a motion on
To
the
approve
public
that.
hearing and
Okay.
accept the findings of fact.
Okay. Council, Roger.
I move that the city approve the right-of-way vacation application ROWV 2021-001 and petition 2021-001 requesting vacation of an unopened right-of-way shown on the Duncan Addition plat as Venus Avenue and a 20-foot wide right-of-way labeled alley that extends south from Test Drive Lane, legally described in the accompanying vacation ordinance, and adopt the attached City of Sila City Council right-of-way vacation findings of fact as our own.
Thank you, Roger. Cliff?
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Roger and a second by Cliff. Roll call, Teresa. I'm sorry, Kevin. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. The reference numbers,
Mhm.
those, should that be 2022-001?
2022.
No, they should not, because they were accepted in 2021.
Okay,
So that the fire numbers are all tied to the year that they were received and deemed complete.
thank you.
Welcome.
Cliff?
Want to clarify that the motion to accept the findings is with the correction of the date and the facts and findings.
On the dates?
The correction of the map reference.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Roger, a second by Cliff. Roll call, Teresa?
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes,
Councilmember Iverson. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councilmember
Yes.
Marquis,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes,
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson. My apologies, folks. It is unanimous, Madam.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to do 01, the ordinance vacating a portion of the unopened right-of-way shown on the Duncan Avenue plat as Venus Avenue, and a 20-foot wide right-of-way labeled alley that extends south of Test Drive Lane, requested by Frontier Country Investments LLC. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just the actual legal document that the council has to vote on to to approve that vacation of that right of way. Once this is approved, then the city will hold the right of way vacation ordinance from being recorded at the assessor's office along with the map until such time as the property is dedicated by Frontier Properties back to the city of Yakima, city of Sila, for that property exchange. And then we will record them both simultaneously at the same time at the auditor's office, ensuring that we get the property that we provided for in the right-of-way vacation, and they get the property from the city at the correct time. And I don't see any date issues on this vacation ordinance.
Thank you. Kevin?
Move to approve the ordinance as written.
Thank you. Mike?
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Kevin, a second by Mike. Roll call, Teresa? No, I'm
Councilmember
sorry. I'm sorry. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Peters or Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
yes,
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. General business. Under new business, we have none. Under old business, we have none. Resolutions. In one, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tonight is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a 2-page sworn statement and proof of loss document with Washington City's Insurance Authority, which is WCIA, regarding property damage to the fence at Carlin Park. During the windstorm back in November, the left field fence was blown over. And so staff contacted WCIA, and we were able to negotiate a settlement with them. The settlement total loss was $70,000. The city's monetary deductible is $25,000. And so WCIA will issue payment to the city for the remainder, which is $45,000. The city plans on putting this out to bid for the full fence replacement at Woodfield. There will be 2 schedules, a Schedule A and a Schedule B. Schedule A will be like for like 6-foot fence with a 16-foot center field, and a Schedule B for an 8-foot fence with a 16-foot center field at the request of the Legion. The Legion has requested this 8-foot fence for their advertising. And so as such, they have agreed to pay the difference between a 6-foot fence and what the actual cost of an 8-foot fence is. And that's why we're putting it out in 2 schedules. If the Legion does not come up with the additional funds needed to install the 8-foot fence, then we already have a 6-foot fence bid, and we can move forward with that. Are there any questions?
Roger?
move to approve,
Thank you. Jared?
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Roger, a second by Jared. Council, any discussion? Roger?
the only question I had is with the 8-foot option, that does include the engineering because it's over 6 feet, is that correct?
That's correct. Currently, I've asked HLA to come up with a design specification for an 8-foot athletic field fence, as well as a 16-foot athletic field fence, which is utilized for normally backstops on baseball fields. But because the center field is 16 foot, I thought it appropriate that the city have in its construction standards a exhibit for those 2 sizes. So if the school district or the city puts in any other ball fields, we already have an exhibit in our construction standards for that. So yes, that is correct, Roger.
And those would be paid by the Legion, is that correct?
No, the city's going to pay for those designs because I want it to have it for future projects that the city does or the school district, if they have to design another baseball field, it'll already be in our construction standards. So I thought it appropriate to have it identified in our construction standards for that. Because we have 5 other softball fields that have a 16-foot fence for the backstops, along with the Little League field at McGonigal. So if anything ever happened to that, then we'd have to pay engineering every time we went and did a fence.
Okay.
Hey, seeing no more discussion, roll call, Teresa?
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Rocky. N2 has been relocated. We'll come back to that. N3, Chief Chrisman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council staff. Resolution N3 authorizes the mayor to sign a law enforcement assistance agreement relating to dispatch communications between the city of Sila and Yakima County for the fiscal year 2022. You were part of a study session recently where we discussed in some depth dispatching services for the city of Sila Police Department. And at this time, we just have one vendor to choose from during the remainder of this year. Yakima County, just as a note, has been providing dispatch services for the city of Sila without a contract, and this action will resolve that issue for the remainder of this year. I'm available for any questions.
Mike?
I move to approve the resolution as written there.
Thank you. Kevin?
I'll second.
Thank you. Council, do we have any discussion questions for Chief Chrisman? Seeing none, roll call, Teresa?
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Your ordinances, 02, Mr. Novobelsky.
Okay, I was guessing you wanted to do resolution N2 first, but no.
No, that's after you.
Okay, so what we have is an ordinance that will amend our budget for 6 different funding applications that were submitted to the LTAC, Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, and they took action at their January 31 meeting and made approval on these applications. The first application was for Sila Community Days in the amount of $10,000. The second application was from the city of Sila in the amount of $6,000 for the 4th of July for fireworks. The third application was hot rods on First Street for $4,000, which was approved for the city of Sila. Then the Sila Downtown Association had an application of $5,194 to put logos or anyhow to mark 4 different traffic control boxes at stoplights for a walking tour, which currently you probably noticed at Natchez and First at the Civic Center corner. There are existing markings which have been placed on these traffic control boxes, but they have, I forget what it's called, a QCR code. You walk up with your phone and you can scan this code on there, and then you'll be taken to a website that will tell you some history on Sila. The Yakima Valley Tourism submitted an application for $6,351 for an annual contract, a travel guide, a media relation package, and a sports tourism package. And then the final item, although we had approved in our adoption of the 2022 budget an allocation of a portion of our community services director, Zach Schwab's salary at 15%, the LTAC group decided that that was too much and they were only willing to fund 8%. So we're moving $6,197 back to the general fund that they've indicated that they're not willing to pay. And so that's what you have before you.
Thank you. Council, do you have questions? Mr. Henney?
Well, on page 3 of that agenda item, I wrote a member to the city council, a memo to the city council. And what Dale was saying is that there was an application for 15% of the recreation director's salary, and they reduced it to 8%. And so we did not include that application in this agenda item because I was asking if you would send it back to the LTAC committee, and then I was going to meet with them Friday to discuss this item. I don't know if I had a meeting then, okay. And so then I wrote this memo and I wrote on there that I didn't know if they really understood how much work staff does. Dale and Teresa and Zach all work on setting up these meetings, putting the agendas together, taking the minutes, budget adjustments, and the ordinance to reimburse checks, monthly cash and investments, etc. And then I had a discussion with Russ, I think Friday, and he was amenable to council sending this back to the LTAC committee. And also since that time, and I wrote this memo, I sat down with Dale. We went back, looked at past budgets, and I think it was in 2017 and prior, it was 8%. After that, it got bumped up to 15%. And I can only speculate that it was the last city administrator who bumped that up, and I don't know how it was justified or why that was done, but that's when it got bumped up. So what I would like to have done is gone back, discussed with those 3 staff members, how much time they actually spent on this, run it through the salary equations, and then see what those costs were. And rest of the, like I say, he was okay with doing that. But since I met with him, I like I said, I've seen where it was 8% for years and years, and then it got bumped up all of a sudden to 15%. So I will still meet with the LTAC committee Friday and then bring back in one form or another the actual application, if you folks so choose. If not, then we'll just bring it back at the full at the 8%. There's Bud. So what Dale's asking you is to approve item 02 as presented.
A second.
Do we have,
Without the city of the Park and Recreation, which isn't in here. So
okay, so do we have a motion to approve? We need that first, Roger.
I'll make that motion. I thought Kevin did.
Okay,
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, without Zach's pay in there, without the 15%.
Correct.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve without the 15% in there for Zach. By Roger and
Like
Mike.
second.
Okay, and we have a second by Mike. Is there any discussion, council? Jared?
So my question is, without that in there, that's going to go back, be discussed, that will come back to us at a later date? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mike?
So I guess this is for Joe. So nobody knows when it got bumped up to 15% or
Really?
what?
2018,
No, it was 2020.
2020?
Yeah, this is
Oh,
the,
prior to 2020, it was 8%, yes.
very good.
So nobody knows why though?
No.
Well, it was Mr. Wayman's direction. And, I think Don did that based upon the time he saw involved, like on Hot Rods on First Street. That's where not only Zach works that event, but I believe both of his office staff members work it as well.
Mhm.
And since it's on a weekend, there's overtime and, there's, to me, quite a bit of payroll cost associated with that.
Listen, that and with community days and all those things. So I just wanted to sit down with the LTAC committee and plead my case as to why I think that 15% should stay. That's currently in the budget right now. That was approved in December.
So, as currently drafted, this budget adjustment is going to reduce the funding from Fund 121 Tourism from 15% down to 8%. And then Mr. Henney can interact with the LTAC group to see if we can't get their approval to pay more than 8%.
Council, any more discussion? Kevin?
Doesn't. I want to make sure I got this right. What you just said was that we're approving the 8% right now.
Correct.
Dale, I thought we revised that ordinance not to remove that item entirely.
No, you told me to plug it back in and to move the money down to 8%. And so that's what this does. That's why there's money showing in the general fund.
In the general fund.
Yeah.
Which item is that?
02 shows 6,197 now as an increase in the general fund.
Oh, you got the regular payroll and personal benefits. Okay. I thought something else, but that's fine. If the LTAC committee approves this, then we'll bring back an ordinance that'll increase that $6,000 back up to the 15,000 or 12,000, whatever it was, to make the 15%.
And
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
if they don't, we just approve part and not all of it. I'm not.
If they don't, then this ordinance will cover what they're recommending. And then we'll have to increase that shortfall into the general fund to make up the balance of the salary.
Well, this budget adjustment does that, Joe.
Come on.
This budget adjustment increases the expenditures of the general fund for that 7% that they're not willing to pay.
8%.
7% difference.
The
We're
difference.
charging 15, they only want to pay 8. So it moves 7%.
The rest of the money is still in the budget, so that means that we're going to have to change something around. No?
No.
Huh.
Yeah. Currently, in the adopted budget, 15% of Zach's salary is coming out of Fund 121. LTAC has said they're not willing to pay that. So I'm moving 6,197 out of Fund 121 over to the general fund 001. However, you're going to be talking to them to see if we can't get them to reconsider, and then we'll move some of that money back out of 001 general to 121 tourism. Anyhow, that's our goal. That's what we're trying, because to me, we were just using a simplicity method. We weren't trying to show every individual that serves Fund 121. We were only using, per Don's direction, Zach as the identified employee, and we were charging 15% of his salary. And anyhow, LTAC is sensitive to that, in that their feeling is Zach doesn't spend 15% of his time on LTAC. And, I'd say they're right. However, there are other people that do spend time on LTAC. And that was the objective of the 15%, to try to recoup those costs.
Kevin?
I'm not real comfortable then putting out something and then hoping that they come back and agree to it. I mean, doesn't seem right what our job is to do.
Yeah, we're not hoping. I mean, we're just doing what they say they're not willing to pay, because the law does say that LTAC determines how tourism dollars are spent. And they've keyed in on that, and they've given me direction that they're not willing to pay for certain costs. So anyhow, I would say the law is on their side. And if in fact they're not willing to pay it, we can't force them to pay it. So we're trying to work with them to help them to understand why we've identified that cost level.
Cliff?
I'm thinking that if we approve this as presented and do this budget adjustment with the money that we know that Altec is providing for us, then after the meeting with them and further negotiations, if they are willing to up it to 15% or 10% or whatever they decide is appropriate, then we can come back with another budget adjustment that puts it back into the budget. I'm a little confused right now. I think I agree with Kevin. I can't see approving something that we hope will have funding in the future, that we know that we have these revenues and can allocate them if they are willing to give us more in the future, then we can adjust again. I'm not sure if we take that line out. I'm not exactly sure where we are today.
Well, and yeah, I'm going to say that this budget adjustment is based upon the conclusions, the actions taken by the LTAC group. So they've determined that they're only willing to fund this level. I guarantee you the general fund has 6,197 to fund that difference if we can't convince them in the future. So anyhow, this is not going to be an adverse effect on the general fund, this 6,197. However, they've told us through their application process, which anyhow, I didn't know that the city was submitting an application for this. This was a surprise to me. However, we did, and this is the action they took, and this is what they've directed us to do. So, budget-wise, I'm only proposing that we honor their conclusions at this point in time.
Mike?
Yeah, going along with what Dale said, I agree with the 8%. I think if we have, instead of having just an arbitrary number, if we have numbers on our side showing who it is that, who puts a certain amount of time, and we're prepared to give that to them in the future, then maybe we can adjust that then. But I think right now, especially as Dale said, the law's on their side. And so I just agree with the 8%.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table right now, a first and a second to approve it. But the approval was on the assumption that we were going to remove that line from it. Is that correct? Do I understand that correct? Roger.
That's what I thought was approved.
Right.
But we were approving as it was presented, and it may come back to us as another budget adjustment if we receive more money from tourism to apply to this, and just be an adjustment of accounts.
Okay, so Roger, did you make the motion to approve?
Yes.
First, okay, will you restate your motion, please? Roger, you're muted. If you're talking to us, we can't see you.
Yes, it was to approve as presented in the printed material.
Okay. And Mike, you second? Is that correct?
I think it was Jared.
Jared, did you seconded that?
Oh,
Teresa?
okay.
I have that Mr. Costello seconded that one.
Okay. Mike?
Sorry about that.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve as presented by Roger, a second by Mike. Roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll work our way through this.
Okay, so now we are on into resolution. Joe Hinney.
Well, one of those applications was to sign or it was submitted to do a 1-year contract for the Yakima Valley Tourism for tourism promotion. And we need a resolution from council authorizing the mayor to sign that contract. And so that contract is for the travel guide, the media relations, and sports tourism for a total of $6,351. So I'm asking you that you approve the ordinance, allowing the mayor to do that agreement for that tourism contract.
Kevin?
Move to approve.
Cliff?
I'll second.
Any discussion, council? Seeing none, roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. 03, Mr. Novelski.
Okay, what you have before you is an ordinance which amends the 2022 budget for the cash and investment carryover from 2021. And it's rather impressive, I think, that we need to increase, this ordinance will increase the beginning carryover by $2,109,000. And as you can see in the ordinance, there's numerous funds that are involved in this. Many funds. So anyhow, this will help us to update the budget picture such that it factually represents our carryover, our actual cash and investments that are in the bank. And that's all I have.
Wow, that should be a unanimous automatic to accept. So I move to approve.
Thank you,
I'll
Roger.
second.
It's been moved to approve by Roger, second by Kevin. Discussion, council? I don't know. I see some pretty happy faces up there. Roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
yes,
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Public appearances, we have none. Reports and announcements. Chief Lang.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I don't have much for you tonight. Something quick to tell you. We're proud to present that we finished our third grant last week and got our third of 3 grants turned in. So we're waiting to hear back on that. We did receive the first part of our radio shipment last week also. We're still waiting on some more of that to show up, but the guys are getting trained up on our new radios and getting ready to go. And that's about it, really. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chief Chrisman.
I wanted to just kind of get you up to speed on some personnel changes here in the department in 2021. I'm not sure that I know we haven't talked about this. And I want to let you know that on January 1st, I promoted Sergeant Rich Bromley to the rank of lieutenant. His promotion replaces the deputy chief position in this department that was vacated when Eric Steen retired in early of 21. Officer Corey Worrell, many of you may know, was the next person on the sergeant's eligibility list. And I've promoted him from officer to the rank of sergeant to backfill Lieutenant Brumley's vacancy in the sergeant's work group. Those 2 promotions took effect on January 1st of this year. Now, on February 28th, just next week, we'll mark the end of an era here at the Sila Police Department when our eldest sergeant, Brett Reeves, retires from the PD. He started his career in 1995 as a reserve officer in both Wapato and Sila simultaneously. And then in 98, he accepted a full-time position in Union Gap. And then in 2000, lateraled to Sila PD. Since he's been here, he's been an officer, of course, a K-9 officer, a master police officer. He served as an acting sergeant, and then in 2000 earned the rank of sergeant full-time. So now his retirement will create a vacancy in the sergeant's cadre as well. And then I'm going to announce to you tonight that we are promoting Corey Baird, who many of you know has served in the schools as our school resource officer for the last few years. And so he will fill Sergeant Reeves' vacancy. He's been with us since 2012 and has been an instructor in numerous courses, defensive tactics. He's a field training officer. He's got a very deep resume with the city of Selah. In 2021, council approved a pre-hire employee to ensure speedy entry into the state's police academy. And I hired a young man by the name of Willie Hayes, and he is due to graduate the police academy on March 30th, just a couple days after Sergeant Reeves retires. So he'll come back to the city and he will start his field training phase, and we'll get him out on the road very quickly, hopefully. We still have 3 positions that we are recruiting for, police officer positions. And we had a part-time records clerk position that the council authorized that just closed, and we'll be reviewing those applications next and making arrangements for testing on that. So a lot of change in the police department, just in the ranks of the personnel group here. So if you see any of those folks, not that I expect you to remember all those names or the shuffling about of all of them by any means, but if you know them, feel free to congratulate them or stop by and say hi. And that's all I have. Because I think that Mr. Bell's going to talk about the construction committee. So I'll defer to him.
All right, thanks. Mr. Wallace.
Thank you. Today was the pre-con for the wastewater collection systems improvement project. The notice to proceed will be March 21st. That project again is through Railroad Avenue, continuing west on Natchez, and then heading north on 4th, and then turning 4th into a walking path. The Crusher Canyon 90% plans were sent to Yakima County for concurrence and their review, since it is in their right of way. Tomorrow, Public Works has a meeting with HLA to go over the 95% plans for Natchez Sidewalk Improvement Project. And last week, Public Works met with HLA to go over the 95% plans for the Fremont Avenue Sidewalk Project. What else? That's basically it. Just working on projects, trying to get things ready to go out to add. We want to get out as soon as possible for these projects so that we get good bidding climate and get people that want to work in town. Are there any questions for myself or Public Works? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a lot to report this evening, but we've been working with Rocky on a number of the development application approvals, and we received some of the engineering for the brewery that you just reviewed and completed with the right-of-way vacation for that application. We've reviewed and approved all the engineering for that, so they can start construction at any point in time now. We also have some other development plans for some other smaller projects that aren't really quite noteworthy. One of the other larger ones that we have received and approved is both in zoning and in Public Works for the infrastructure is the school's bus barn. We have completed both the environmental review, the engineering plans so they can start construction, as well as the land use review for that particular building. We're working with the school district on doing an interior remodel on one of the John Campbell buildings and their administration building. But it won't amount to as much as, of course, of the new building for the tax revenue wise, but it is still construction dollars that we need to see. We're seeing a slight uptake in building permit applications for new homes and things that had kind of stalled, I guess I would say, over the winter, and maybe seeing that prices are kind of leveling out at a higher level than normal, but people are just thinking, I guess, that they just need to proceed and get done. So we're hopeful that we're going to see some of that. We also have some discussions with one of our developers to redevelop a plat that they have to continue with that development. That will be coming to the council later on this year, most likely. And I think that's about it. Any questions? Nope. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Mr. Novoselski.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So on our city website, on the financial tab, we do have the December financial statements and we have the 2022 budget. However, I have not closed the January books yet. January was a rather remarkable month in that we've written over 300 refunds for our basketball program. And as you can imagine, that's rather time consuming. And I'm hoping that we don't see a similar thing for our upcoming soccer season. But anyhow, tomorrow before noon, I hope to have that January financials done, and I will update that to the website. And, as indicated in that budget adjustment for the cash and investment carryover, it is rather amazing how our sales taxes, last year it was 500,000 over budget. For the month of January, it was more than January of a year ago. And with the school construction just wrapping up, I think it's the most we've ever had for a month of January. So, financially, it's just rather incredible how we're doing sales tax wise. But as we all know, this construction process is about to wrap up. So we're about to get back to normal. So anyhow, it's a good thing that we have this money and hopefully we spend it wisely. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Schwab.
Good evening, everyone. Since it was already touched on, soccer registration opened yesterday. And with soccer being a moderate risk sport outdoors, the outdoor mask mandate being lifted and the indoor mask mandate supposed to be lifted by March 21st, which is when we plan to start soccer practices. We shouldn't run into the same issue that we had with basketball this year, being a high-risk indoor sport. We should be able to run soccer this spring outdoors just fine. Civic Center, we've been having COVID vaccines dispersed there. The last two opportunities to do that are going to be March 8th and March 22nd. And then they're going to wrap it up and they're not going to come back to our neck of the woods anymore. And then the last thing I want to touch on, I want to state for the record, just because I've had a couple of council members ask me, and Councilman Carlson last week came in and gave me a pretty good razzing about it. My last name is pronounced Shab. So for all of you who are wondering, it's not Schwab, it's not Schab, it's Shab. And hopefully Russ, next time he comes in, he won't give me a hard time about it for not correcting anybody. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions for me, I'll answer them, but that's all I've got to report tonight.
Roger has a question.
Zach, I thought for sure you'd want to talk something about a certain swim team that you might be associated with.
Oh, which one is that, Roger? The high school swim team?
Yeah, of course.
I do not like to toot my own horn, Roger. But I will say that we had this last weekend, we participated in the state tournament over in Federal Way. I took 12 athletes, 12 of the 14 Sila athletes made it to state and swam this last weekend. We had a pretty good showing as a team, placed 7th out of 34 teams. 2 years ago at state, when we had our last state tournament, we placed 14th, so we improved quite a bit. We had Michael Ozanich, who is the son of the aquatics director for the Bruce Buchanan Memorial Aquatic Center. He set a new school record in the 200 IM this weekend. It was the first one of my school records that I hold to be taken down. It was something else to see from the pool deck it was nice to see a kid that I coached take down one of my records. But then we had Charlie Hudson, who is a junior this year. He came out Saturday as the state champion in the 50 freestyle. And to my knowledge and our AD and our principal, he is only the second state champion in swimming for Sila. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Zach, do you want to touch on the Parks and Rec plan update?
Oh yeah, we met with HLA last week. Buddy, can you stop for a second? We are on schedule with them. We're getting our survey questions finalized to put together on SurveyMonkey to put out and run April through August. So we're going to blast that around town. We're going to blast it on social media and on the website as well for people to take. But we are taking all the boxes and we're on schedule. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Council members. Kevin.
Only thing I had was that the newly elected and re-elected were invited by YB-COG to evening celebration out at Birchfield Manor. It was excellent food. Got to meet a lot of people from other city councils up and down the valley, and found it very, very nice, very informative. But I am biased, so that was it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mike.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Cliff.
We'll keep it going with COG. Attended the general membership meeting. We elected the new executive board for this year. Our mayor is part of that executive board. And we heard from Madeline Carlson, the CEO of People for People, talked about many of the services that they provide for us. I found it interesting. I think I knew about all of the programs and services, but I was not aware that People for People was the one that administered all of them. And that's all I really have.
Thank you. Roger.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for information, the SPRSA board meeting is next Monday night, 6 p.m. at the City Hall. Report from the Law and Justice Center Committee. And if for those who may not know, the committee was Mike, Cliff, and myself as council members, the chief, and our city administrator, Joe, and Jeff Peters, and two community members, Lisa Gordon, who's on the call tonight, and Dick Graff, who's attending his daughter's wedding, so he's not here, but that's our committee. And the mayor sat on that occasionally to attend what we were doing, but we were charged with discovering the feasibility of moving ahead with a new Law and Justice Center. And we're very close to having completed that. We have one more meeting to go, but I'd like to recommend to the council that we have a study session at our next meeting, which would be March 8th, with our architect to explain. There is a kind of a time constraint in the way that we need to be moving forward with this. So we have time yet this year to kind of hold our costs in line if we decide to move forward. So that presentation, they're estimating it'd take about 2 hours. So I'd like to propose that we have a study session at 3:30 on March 8th to 5:30 that would have the architects answer questions and make their presentation on a proposal for consideration of the council to move forward.
Thank you, Roger. Jared?
I have no report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth? Elizabeth? You're muted. Are you saying no report? Okay. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, could we
yes.
get an opinion on,
Yeah.
so we can set that meeting?
Sure. So on March 8th, is everybody available for a study session at 3:30? Thumbs up. Yeah, Roger, it looks like we're good. I will have Teresa set that up. Okay, Mr. Case.
I have no public report.
Thank you. Mr. Peters, you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to report that I have corrected those council meeting or council findings and have sent those over to Teresa so that so she can prepare those for your signature.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Henney.
I don't have a report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
Yeah, did we get any type of notice or anything? I was really, as I walked by the deconstruction, the tearing down of the school, why there were people out in full protective garb and gas masks going through the piles?
Rocky, have you heard anything?
What I understand is they were searching through the rubble to see if they could find any asbestos that may have been missed during their abatement. I do not know if they ever found anything or not. I know that they hosed down the whole area as they were working through it, but I don't know if they found anything that was missed during the abatement.
There were a lot of bags set aside after it, so.
I can find out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, no questions of Joe, huh? Joe, you're off the hook.
Good.
Chief Chrisman, if you're still on here, I'm sure Brett is going to love that you called him the eldest officer publicly. I'm sure he's liking that. And also want to thank him for his service for all these years to Sila. Also to Rocky and Ty. I had a citizen call this morning about 11 o'clock about some potholes that were on Southern, and the guys got out and got it fixed. It must have been before 4 o'clock.
It was before, it was at 1 o'clock. I think the confirmation that the repair has been made.
Yeah. So thank you for getting on that. I'm sure that Mr. Tierney will be happy.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks. That's all I have. Motion to adjourn. Cliff?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Cliff, second by Kevin. All those in favor? It's unanimous if Roger raises his hand. Oh, there you go. Okay. Thanks. Have a good night, guys. Kevin, I'll see you tomorrow about 3:15.
Okay.
Okay.
8 o'clock tomorrow morning, guys.
Right.